Tales of the Tardis was a 6-part kind of spin-off series released around about the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who in 2023. It comprised of bookended brand new scenes set on the memory TARDIS, featuring classic characters returning and reprising their roles and meeting up in older age. It was teased in places like Doctor Who magazine by Russell T Davies and Scott Hancock that this is a series that could potentially return for a second run. So I want to ask, if it does, which characters should return this time? I've got my thoughts, I'd love to hear yours too. Hi, I'm Phil, welcome to my channel where I like to talk about all the geeky pop culture that I like to consume. Things like Red Dwarf, things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, things like Doctor Who, and that's what this video is about, Doctor Who and its spin-off little thing that came out last year, Tales of the TARDIS. Now, this was unfortunately only available in the UK legally, and only available on iPlayer here, so some of you may not have seen this if you are on a worldwide audience, but what it essentially was, as I said, little bookended new scenes with characters returning, and then a classic episode kind of sandwiched in the middle of these two scenes. So you get a bit of new content, a bit of a way to introduce some newer viewers to classic serials they hadn't seen before. And it was really nice. It was very lovely and a good way to involve some of the more classic elements in the 60th anniversary as a whole, because there wasn't much on the TV series. Although check out this video for how the 60th TV specials did in fact reference quite a lot of the show's history. But this one did it much more directly, and we actually had returning characters. And I was watching a Josh Schneer's video the other day, and that got me thinking, because they were reviewing the whole of the first series and mentioned the possibility of a second series in that, and I think had a few ideas themselves, and that got me thinking, what would I want to see in a second season of this? Given that it's, let's say it's 6 episodes again, what would I want those 6 episodes to be? And that is what I'm going to talk about in this video. Now, there are a couple of things you need to think about when thinking about what characters should come back and who you pair them up with. I think, first of all, the obvious one, who's still alive, because quite a lot of the actors that have been, especially in those ones from the 60s and maybe the 70s, are sadly no longer around. So we have to take that into consideration. Who is still around? Then, of course, who do you pair them up with? Because which two people do you pair together that has a reason to pair them? They either need a really strong connection in the show themselves, or something unresolved that we can draw on, like they did with Tegan and the Fifth Doctor, where there was the conversation about Adric, which they'd never really had in the show itself and never really resolved their feelings about. They got the chance to do that in Tales of the TARDIS, and it would be great to do some more of that as well. So looking for those pairings, looking for those characters that either have a really strong connection which you can bring out and really deepen, or really some unresolved stuff that they can talk about, and that other person is the one to bring it out of them. So for the first episode, I want to see Susan in some capacity. I think she was the big missing link to the 60th anniversary. She wasn't there in any capacity in any of the celebrations really, which is really a shame, apart from Big Finish's one. But other than that, she wasn't really involved in the 60th, and that was a shame, because she is one of the last surviving original cast members along with William Russell. So what I think, especially, this would have been better in the 60th, but I think let's make up for it now and have her and William Russell in the first episode. So you pair up Susan with William Russell. Obviously William Russell is quite old now. I think he's 98, is he? Or is he even 99 now? He's approaching the centenary, so if they're going to do this, I hope they do it soon. But the two of them together would be fantastic. The two surviving original cast members back again together. And I think the emotional crux of that could be talking about loss, talking about leaving people, or, not having people around anymore. Because obviously Susan was sort of abandoned by the Doctor on Earth, in a post-Dalek invasion Earth, and there's a bit of abandonment issues there that she might have to work through, which she has worked through in some Big Finish things, but, it's a way she can tie it in with the loss that maybe Ian now feels not having Barbara around anymore. Now, in the expanded universe, the last time Susan encountered Ian, Barbara was still alive in the box set Susan's War. So it would be interesting to cover, maybe in the same sort of similar way that in the last series Jo talked about Cliff and how, you know, that loss has affected her. We can have Ian talking about how Barbara's loss has affected him, and them all reminiscing about their time together on the Tardis, and Susan talking about her loss, and obviously the episode to bookmark that is the one where Susan gets abandoned, so Dalek invasion of Earth. The next episode, let's have one with the Fourth Doctor, because he wasn't involved last time. Obviously getting Tom Baker involved is logistically difficult, but it might not be impossible. He has done some filming, you know, he did that Sharda stuff about 5 years ago. I know he's that much older now and that much frailer, but it's still a possibility, at least, that he might be able to do something. So let's get him in with Leela. I think the angle to take with this one is how far Leela has come. If we have a Leela that is still within the Time War, so that little collection box set short we got where she was saved from the Time War at the very end by the Doctor, I think said it just before that. So she's, you know, a war general in the Gallifreyan army. She's a commander against the Daleks in this war, and how far she's come from being that 17 warrior back when the Doctor first met her. And we have that episode, The Face of Evil, where she first met the Doctor, as that middle section that we can, the classic episode we look back and reflect on while talking about that. I think you could do one with the Fifth Doctor and Nyssa, especially around the fact of her feelings around the Master, because of course the Master killed her dad and stole his body, and then in several stories, they encountered that Master again, wearing her dead dad's face, and it was kind of never mentioned, which was slightly odd. But, you know, that's got to have some PTSD elements to it, some trauma, going around and constantly running into the evil man that killed your dad and stole his body. And I think that could be explored a little bit in these bookended segments. Now, obviously, you could do that one with the Fourth Doctor, because the one where her father's face was stolen was a Fourth Doctor story. But they continued to encounter him in the Fifth Doctor's era, so I think choose one of the ones with the Master in from the Fifth Doctor's era and go with that one. So maybe Castrovalva. Then we get into the slightly trickier era of the Sixth and the Seventh Doctor, because they had so few companions between them, and they've been done, many of them have been done already or crossed between the two of them, so we've already done Perry for the Sixth, so that kind of only leaves Mel if we want to do one with the Sixth. And she was only in one story with him on television, which is Terror of the Vervoid, so that will be the story. As for what the angle is on the scenes, the emotional crux, that's a bit more difficult. You could go along the lines of something of like, she didn't really know him that well, that version of him that well, and she wished she had got more time to get to know him. Although that's a bit more tricky, because it's implied even in the TV episode that they've had many adventures together, and it's just a bit of a timey-wimey different order thing going on. So it's not the best one. It's probably thematically the weakest, but it's kind of the only person you can still pair with the Sixth Doctor that's left. And actually, that doesn't leave anybody for the Seventh Doctor to pair with. You could pair Mel with the Seventh Doctor as well. But in the fifth episode then, I would just do another Seventh Doctor and Ace. If any Doctor and Companion can support a second one of these, I think it's those two. They worked through a lot last time, but I think they had the most kind of like with his manipulating of him, with his manipulating of her, and their kind of like her being the most developed in terms of backstory companion that we'd really had, and so she sort of had an arc which companions hadn't had up until that point, really. She's the first of the modern companions in a way. I think there's something else you can do there, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. I mean, let me know in the comments below if you've got any ideas, but I think if any Doctor and Companion could support a second one of these, it's probably them two. As for what episode you put in the middle, I don't know, it depends kind of which angle you're going with. Maybe Remembrance of the Daleks you could do, possibly. You could do every episode, really. And then for the final episode, and I know there are rights issues around this, but it would be absolutely amazing to do the TV movie and have the Eighth Doctor and Grace going into the Dream TARDIS. We're just thinking out of the box here. Yes, I know there's rights issues, but in a perfect world where they sort all the rights issues out and they could do this, that would be the best option, because otherwise you're going to have to do Big Finish, and then what do you put in the middle? Do you animate one? It gets expensive and complicated. I think sorting out the rights is probably more cheaper than doing a whole animation of a Big Finish. So yeah, him and Grace, and I think the angle you take with that one is probably maybe she regrets not going with him, and there's something around that they can explore, because obviously she doesn't go with him at the end and chooses not to. Or does he just not offer? I can't remember. I think there's something around there that could be quite interesting, and it would be lovely to see them interact again for the first time since 1996. So that is what I would do for my 6 episodes of a season 2 of Tales for the TARDIS, in a dream world where, you know, all these people were available and able to do it still, and rights issues weren't a problem. What is yours? What would you prefer to do? Do you like my ideas? Would you do something slightly different? Would you tweak them slightly, or do something completely different for every single one? Let me know in the comments below. And who knows, maybe we'll see this season 2 next year sometime, and we'll see how close I got to it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you for more Doctor Who videos soon. Goodbye.